Alright guys, this is just a quick overview of the exterior of the E300 4Matic. And like I said, it's kind of slated in between the C Class and the S Class. It has the same kind of design language. It has the flush mounted integrated rear taillights, like I'll show you here. You know, this is totally from the new S Class with the LED lights as well. Same thing with the integration of the rear exhaust tips into the rear bumper. But overall, it's not a bad looking car. It's not very sporty. It looks about maybe 15% larger than in the new C-Class model. But I tell you right now, it drives really well. It drives like a proper luxury sedan. It's got an outstanding chassis. I've been driving it for over an hour right now. This particular car does not have Aromatic Suspension. It has conventional springs and shocks. Move over to the front. You know, it's the same design language right now that they're using all the way across the board with Mercedes Benz products. So it's very familiar, and I think that's what they want with their brand. And even in the base model, they give you the nice top stitch dash all the way around, even by the front header of the front windscreen. It has a nice, beautiful burl walnut wood all the way through. The Burmester sound system. You got nice French stitching all through the interior. This doesn't have the Nappa grade leather. The one thing I would have liked on this center console fascia, instead of the piano black, I think doing it in the burl walnut would look outstanding. If this host center stack was burl walnut, I think it would look a hell of a lot nicer than the way it does like right now. And the piano black just scratches like everything. Now the ivory interior on this car, the natural color, it looks great, really nice contrast, but the upkeep is an absolute nightmare. You know, it's got a hell of a lot more comfort and legroom and headroom than a C-Class, and I think that's really what this car is, but this is a hell of a lot more refined than a new C-Class chassis by a long shot. And you have your power outlets down here. Look, you even get a 115 volt electrical outlet, which that's the first time I've ever seen one of these in a Mercedes Benz. So you get your 12 volt and you get your 115, so you can take your hairdryer, your laptop charger, whatever in the back of the car. That's actually a really cool feature. So guys, we're going to strap the camera in the car, we're going to go for a ride, and I'm going to give you my feedback as far as what I think dynamically this car is, the build quality and everything in between. Alright guys, we're at the drive portion of my review of the 2018 E300 4Matic sedan. I just pulled the window sticker out of the glove box, and this particular car is about $67,000 with all the options. This is a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbo engine, 241 horsepower, 273 foot-pounds of torque, G-tronic transmission with dynamic select and permanent all-wheel drive. This has 18-inch twin-spoke wheels, suspension with selective dampening, and I've been driving the car for about an hour. I actually had to pull over. I honestly thought this car had an Aromatic suspension like prior generations of the E-Class. The E-Class switched over to an Aromatic when it went from the 210 chassis to the 211. This particular car has conventional coil springs and adjustable shock absorbers. Now, I don't know if the upper end models are switched over to an Aromatic suspension. I don't really know. I have to look into that. But so far, the car rides really, really well. And you would think that it's underpowered by it being a 4-cylinder inline turbo. But believe it or not, with the 9-speed transmission and the gearing that they chose, it's totally in the proper power band at all times. It actually feels like a conventional E320 of the past. It doesn't feel underpowered at all. It doesn't feel fast, doesn't feel sporty, but it has just the right amount of power for this type of a car. Now, comparing this to like the base model Infiniti Q50 or the BMW, like the 530, 535i, or whatever, those cars definitely have a little bit more grunt than this car. But this car is smoother, it's quieter, better build quality, better road isolation. This is probably the quietest E-Class that I've ever been in. And I've owned a 124, I've owned a 210, and I've owned a 211 E-Class, all AMG models. My W124 was a 500E model. But like I said, for a conventional spring and shock combination, I noticed right away it just feels more balanced, more control. The chassis feels a little bit more composed than the prior generations that had the Aromatic. I never liked Aromatic in my life on any car. No matter what kind of car it is, I just don't like air suspension, especially in New York. Now, the new generation S-Class, they finally got the Aromatic, I feel, perfect. So, did they do that on the E63S and all these other models? I don't know if they have Aromatic. I got to do some double checking on that. But for the base suspension, it feels great. Now, This is a slightly grown-up version of the new C-Class. The C-Class is more sporty, a little bit more nimble, you know, a little smaller in size, and you can toss it around a little bit more. This is more of a luxury, you know, upper-class sedan. It's not trying to be sporty, not this particular version anyway, but it's comfortable. I mean, very, very good wind noise. I don't hear anything. Very, very quiet. This doesn't have double pane side glass like the S-Class. I just don't think in this price category they're going to give you all of that S-Class luxury, even though they styled the entire interior now like an S-Class with the LCD screen and LCD gauges and this new center stack over here, which is a carryover from the prior generation and also the C-Class. But it's nice. I mean, it's got really nice burl walnut wood, which is really nice, but they did piano black on this whole center stack here. Not sure why. I think this would look really, really nice if this was also done in the burl walnut wood as well. But then again, like I said, it's also, you know, part of cost cutting and getting you this level of luxury and quality at a certain price bracket. But the car drives well. As far as steering feedback, comparing it to prior generations, I personally always liked the 210 chassis and the way the steering felt in those cars, especially like the E55s and the E430s. But this feels pretty good. It's not all over the road. It doesn't have that tendency like a lot of prior generations where it was always pulling to one side, especially around here. You would always get that bias to one side where these cars would always pull. And this car's not doing that, so the steering feels on-centered. Decent level of body control. But like I said, it's not a sports sedan, and it's not trying to be. It's soaking up the bumps great. I mean, overall, comparing this to like our Infiniti Q50 Red Sport, this is much more comfortable, much better built. Yes, the Red Sport has the better, more sportier, and higher performance engine by a long shot, but no, this is a really nice car. It's a cruiser. And it's so quiet, it actually does have a very good level of isolation and refinement that the new S-Class has, and you're getting it in an E-Class chassis. So a lot of guys were emailing me off my 2 S-Class review videos thinking about, hey, I really want to get the new E-Class. Do you think it's going to be as good as the S-Class? Well, you know, here's a good opportunity. I'm driving an E300 4Matic for you guys, and I'm telling you right now, as far as comfort, noise, wind noise, and everything else, this is giving you probably about 80-85% of that comfort, luxury, and refinement that the S-Class will give you. Yes, the S-Class is in a different league altogether. It's a bigger car, heavier car. It's got the Aromatic Suspension, and there's a lot more soundproofing and the double pane glass and all that good stuff. But I gotta say, this is a nice driving car. Whatever noises you're hearing, that's just my camera gear in the bags and the tripods in the back of the car. So, you know, so far the car seems pretty well built. This particular one has a little over 2,000 miles on it. And it has a floaty luxury feel. We're in comfort mode. We're going to switch to Sport Plus because I am more into the performance end of things with cars. And now I just did I floored it, and it feels like an old E-Class from like 15, 20 years ago as far as the power delivery. It doesn't feel fast, doesn't feel, you know, anything special. But for a 4-cylinder turbo, it has that same feel of the old 6-cylinders and inline 6-cylinders from back in the day. You know, you get that little bit of a delay, and then it gradually spools up to its power band. But overall, this is a nice car. This one also has the Burmester upgraded audio system. It has the premium pack. It has all these other options that I'm not going to really get into now because I am more concerned on how does this car drive, how livable is this for someone like me that's into performance cars, or someone that's looking for a luxury 4-door sedan under $70,000. So aesthetically, the only thing that I would change in this car on the exterior would probably be a different wheel choice. And if you go on MBUSA.com, they have various different wheels that you guys could pick and choose. I personally wouldn't have chosen this set for this particular car, but you know, these cars are just ordered and they're placed on the lot, and that's just what you're going to get. But I've been hitting a lot of potholes, and you know, I try to take these cars in the same roads that I drive just because I want to get the feedback between all these various different cars that I drive to see how well do these cars cope with this environment, the New York City brutal environment of potholes, expansion joints, and everything in between. And that's really a good testament as far as quality control and how well a car is designed. And I'll tell you one thing, the chassis engineering on this car is completely different than the prior generation, like the 211 chassis. Completely different. This feels much more stable. It feels stronger. It doesn't have that effect when you're hitting these bad potholes that the car is like braking in the front. And I said the same thing on my S-Class video. They've gotten things to the point where they redesigned the geometry of the front end, subframe mounts, engine mounts, all of that stuff. And that all has a vital role in how well these cars behave over the New York City environment. Now, how well will it last? I don't really know. With the prior generation, with the Aromatic Suspensions, they used to fail regularly in New York, and after you hit 50, 60,000 miles, it became a very expensive car to own because of a lot of things like that would go wrong with it. So, I mean, this is a car you're going to lease. You're going to lease this car for 3 years, 3.5 years, and give it back. Pay for a scheduled maintenance up front, so they cover everything that goes wrong with the car. You get the free loaner car service and all of that good stuff. Now, we're on the highway doing about 65, and it's not as quiet as the S-Class, but it's actually not that bad. It's much more refined than an Infiniti Q50, I'll tell you that. Now, the BMW 5 Series, I did get a chance to drive one of those. I just feel that feels a little bit more connected, but the steering in the 5 Series is a little twitchy. You just got to get used to some of those modes in that car. But like I said, BMW, that is their audience. They're catering to more of a driver's car. But I still think they lost their touch many years ago. They're just overcomplicating things. And I think Mercedes, in 2018 right now, they're really at the top of their game, because a lot of their cars over the years, I just think that they needed so much more refinement in their design and engineering. And now, with the new C Class, which I think is a great car, love that car. It's a fun little car to drive around, even the base model, all the way up to the C63 AMG. Now the new E Class platform, I think this car is great. The GL, the GLE, and the new S Class. So I gotta say, out of all the cars that I've driven from the Mercedes Benz lineup in the last year or so, I'm very impressed. The next one that I really like to get my hands on is the new SL. I want to see how well that car holds up on these roads and the build quality, because I had a generation in 2011 and it just wasn't a great car, not for around here. The squeaks, the rattles, the active body control, everything just went wrong on that car in a very short amount of time. The SLs that I really liked was the 129 chassis and the one prior to that. Those cars were classics. They're built like tanks. We're going to get it up to speed and we're going to see how well this thing is going to accelerate. So I'm not shifting the car. I'm not using the paddles. I mean, it's just that type of a car that I don't think, I don't know, maybe we'll try to get into it a little bit. See, it shifted for me even in manual mode. So the transmission logic in this car is not very sporty at all. But once it gets moving, you know, we're doing 80. It is smooth as hell, man. Very, very composed chassis. Extremely composed. The steering is dead centered. It's got good weight. The faster I'm going, the more reactive and dynamic it feels. Wind noise is very, very minimal. Now we're in 7th gear, and as soon as I get some room, I'm going to punch it. I'm going to see which gear it's going to drop down to for me to do some passing on the highway at this speed. So it dropped down to 4 gears. Now we're in 5th. So the transmission logic in automatic mode is really, really programmed well. It seems to really sense where the power band is, where the RPMs are. Man, it's a smooth driving, really nice driving car. New York traffic. Oh, like I said, I drive a manual transmission sports car every day, so when I get a chance to drive an automatic sedan, I I take advantage of it at any chance I get. Now on this highway we get a lot of crosswind, and it tends to throw the cars, a lot of cars, all over the road. So from what I'm feeling now, it's quite stable aerodynamically and with the front end geometry of the suspension. And that's important. That's what you want in a sedan, because a lot of guys are going to really be enjoying these cars, not in city and stop and go traffic. They're going to be enjoying them on the highway. If you have a commute, you know, to and from work, or you're going to go on a road trip, that's where you're really going to enjoy a car like this. And, you know, highway stability and high-speed stability, to me, are some of the most important things in a car. And if a car doesn't have that in its design, then don't buy that car. I don't care how nice it looks or what you think it's worth. Yeah, this car holds its speed really well. So on the highway in Sport Plus, we're in 7th gear at 80, and we're well under 3,000 RPM. I'm going to throw it into comfort mode just to see where that's going to drop it down. Now it went into 8 speed, gear number 8. Now it's down in 6. So yeah, there's a big difference in the logic of the transmission. Sport Plus is actually pretty damn good. However, for somebody that's programmed transmissions for race cars and exotic supercars for so long, I gotta say, the transmission logic in this car for a factory car is pretty damn good. They have 9 speeds, and to react that quickly with my throttle inputs, so that's a plus. So we had a little bit of traffic there. It took me a little while to divert, so I had to stop the camera from running and wasting time. But I gotta say, guys, you know, we're coming to the conclusion of the drive portion review of the 2018 E300 4Matic. And I gotta say, this car is pretty impressive. From someone that's owned prior generation of the E-classes and, you know, loved some of the older ones and hated some of the newer ones, this is a good car. This car gives you better build quality, more refinement, much more of an S-class level of quality than any prior E-class has ever given. And that's coming from somebody that works on these cars and has owned these cars and drives these cars hard. So I think that's some positive feedback to pass along to you guys out there that are going to be cross-shopping this car. This car is well more refined, in my opinion, than the Infiniti Q50s, than the Lexus. I don't know. The Lexus, they're just a little too boring and disconnected for me. But I don't know. Like I said, they're probably going to be in the same category if you guys are price shopping what brand identity you want to go with. There's a Lexus buyer, there's the Mercedes buyer, there's the BMW buyer. The BMW is pretty cool. Go check that car out. See what you think of that car. You know, I feel the steering and the handling is a little twitchy. There's just a little bit too much going on in those cars. But, you know, you can't really go wrong with a BMW. I mean, they're solid cars. They're, you know, very well built, very well engineered. But the fact that this E-Class feels like 85% of an S-Class, I think that's definitely a good thing to say coming from someone like me that's not a journalist, but I know cars inside and out. That's just my lifestyle. That's what I do. So hope you guys like this video. Put this car on your radar. I mean, if you don't really need an E300, you know, maybe you want to do something a little bit more aggressive, look at the, you know, the 400. Look at the 63. I mean, I think the 63 is going to be incredible. I want to get my hands on one. If anybody out there has one and wants me to drive it and review it in New York, send me an email. I would love to meet up and do that video with you. But I think this car has good bones. This car has really good bones to be a high-performance super sedan if it was well developed right by the AMG engineers. So we'll see when I get a chance to drive that car and review it for you guys. So any questions, comments, post it below. autofanatic@yahoo.com. More car reviews coming in the future. See you guys soon. Take care.